Hi, friends and supporters. We have some wonderful information you're not going to want to miss. I'm Robert Tyler with Advocates for Faith and Freedom and also the law firm of Tyler and Bursch. I want to bring you up to speed on some of the litigation that we've been filing in regard to the churches. And let's talk about our case with Godspeak Calvary Chapel, Pastor Rob McCoy. Last Friday, we were in court where the county of Ventura were seeking a contempt order against Pastor Rob McCoy. Now, they got $3,000 in contempt sanctions against Pastor Rob McCoy, actually not against him individually, but against the church. And it's amazing how the church steps up and so many people just come forward and with those funds, because it's so important for churches to be able to meet in person to meet the needs of the people. You know, right now we're dealing with suicide, alcoholism, drug abuse, and so many issues that are arising because of COVID-19, because of unemployment, because of the shutdown. And so we're fighting back. And Pastor Rob McCoy and Godspeak Calvary Chapel are taking a stand, along with some other churches I'll tell you about here in a second. Let me tell you what the county wanted to do. The county of Ventura first asked, in their proposed order, they asked that the sheriff of Ventura County be directed to immediately take all actions reasonable and necessary to close the property to prevent further indoor worship services. Guys, this is unprecedented. A county coming and asking the sheriff to come shut down a church, to close its doors. This has not happened before. It shouldn't happen ever. It should never happen, and it should never happen where we have a county asking for that to occur again. Here's what happened in the hearing last Friday. You see, the county sent out these code compliance officers. They're basically these individuals who come along to try to find out what the church is doing wrong, because the church was meeting in person, and so they wanted to come find violations of the orders issued by the governor and issued by the local health official. I'm going to read to you, and it's here on the screen right behind me, what some of these officials wrote in their declaration to support why the church should be sanctioned and closed. Here's what they wrote. I observed people congregate in small groups of 4 to 10 people throughout the parking lot. Many of them expressed that it was nice to see you again, or we haven't seen you in months, indicating that they were not from the same household. Many of these groups embraced, shaking hands, hugging, and kissing each other on the cheek. Folks, you know, in most circumstances, we would look at this and say, what a wonderful thing. People coming together in community, loving on one another, being able to see each other again after a long shutdown. Yet instead, we have county officials coming in using this to try to shut down the church. Now, what's even more ironic about this whole thing is this. Look at this individual right here. This is a picture of an individual who, you may not be able to see it as well as I can see it, but we use this evidence to show that this is the director of the Code Compliance Division in the county, and he's sitting in a car. There's another individual off screen here who's sitting in the passenger seat. He's in the driver's seat. There is no mask. He's not wearing a mask, yet he is there to specifically spy on people to report them for not wearing masks. It's absolute hypocrisy. Here's what he wrote in his declaration. There were no face masks being worn by these groups of individuals. Throughout the entirety of my observations, I would estimate that 1 in 50 individuals was wearing a mask or a facial covering. He doesn't say in his declaration that, by the way, I wasn't wearing one. He just talks about the fact that all of these people are in violation of this ordinance. Now, when I presented this information to him, I presented this picture to him on the witness stand, and I asked him, why in the world is it okay for you to sit in the car with another person and not wear a mask? And that person's not part of your family. You know what his answer was? He said something to the effect of, well, you know, I've known this other individual in the Code Compliance Division, and we work in a cohort. And I said, so somehow being in a cohort makes it legitimate? How about if we set up a cohort of churches? Does that cohort of individuals going to church, does that somehow make it different so that the church members won't have to apply this mask situation or have to be socially distant? And of course, they had no answers for it. But it's the height of hypocrisy when those officials who are coming and spying on the church are doing the very same thing that they are complaining of to a court to try to close the church down. It's so significant. Here's two individuals also. See, there were 2 Sundays that these spies came in to look at the church. The first set of spies came, and here they are. They're in this vehicle, and you can see a man and a woman. Now, it might be a little harder for you to see, but here's a man who has a face mask hanging from his ear. It's not over his mouth, sitting in a car, almost shoulder to shoulder. And here's a woman with her camera taking pictures of individuals who are not wearing masks. Is she wearing a mask? She's not wearing a mask. Yet at the same time, here they are. They're trying to point out to the church or to the court that these church members are not wearing masks and they're not socially distanced. Again, the height of hypocrisy. And here's another individual. This is one of the individuals in the last picture. He gets out of his car and you can see his mask hanging down from his cheek. I actually asked this individual, I said, well, of course, when you stepped out of the car at times, you would have been wearing your face mask, right? And he said, oh, yes, of course. And then I hand him this picture. And I said, who's that in the picture? And he's like, it's me. Well, it's ridiculous. Our whole point at this hearing on the contempt motion was to show the hypocrisy. Now, that doesn't necessarily free the church from the charges for contempt, but our goal was to get this message out. Now, unfortunately, the media didn't cover it. I haven't seen media where they're talking about the hypocrisy here, and I wish they would, so that's one reason why I wanted to get this out, is to show these things. Let's talk about Calvary Chapel Downey now. Same thing. This time, they weren't spies. They didn't come hiding in cars. This time, they came and they actually went to one of the pastors, an assistant pastor, who actually walked them around the church on Sunday. Now, here's what they complained about. They gave them a notice of investigation, and here are the issues that Calvary Chapel is being told that they're doing wrong. And it's the citation, and we expect that the next thing the County of Los Angeles is going to be doing is probably file a lawsuit. Now, here's what was said. Cars park next to one another. This is a violation. Somehow, you can park next to one another at Costco or the grocery store or anywhere else, but when you go to church, you can't park next to one another. Again, here's what their code compliance division people said. What's so wrong with the church? They see visitors engaging in handshakes and hugs in at least 3 occasions. Now, this is just astonishing that they would even write this. Here, this is the funniest thing I can imagine. Here they come and they're investigating, and the pastor's walking the county officials around the church. And here's what they wrote in their report for violations. Observe the pastor conducting the walkthrough during complaint investigation wearing an ill-fitted, loose mask that did not cover his nose much of the time and required frequent readjustment. Really, they're coming and they're citing the church for violating this mask rule because it was an ill-fitted or loose mask. Come on. Folks, this whole circumstance that we're in the middle of right now, COVID-19 and the shutdown, is absolutely erroneous. You have hypocrites who are enforcing the rules. You have Governor Gavin Newsom, who's out there walking with BLM individuals or in pictures with them, masks down. You have the mayor of Los Angeles, out there with the BLM protesters, with thousands of people on the street. But God forbid you attend a church and even wearing a mask, it's ill-fitting. This is just ridiculous. The last case, Calvary Chapel, San Jose. We have others I can tell you about, but this one I want to tell you about. We just got notice yesterday. They've been meeting in person. Fine $5,000 from the county of Santa Clara. They're up in the city of San Jose, Calvary Chapel, San Jose, and fined $5,000. So we are now strategizing exactly what we're going to be doing. So we're likely going to be turning around, filing cross-complaint against the county of Santa Clara. We're going to be filing a cross-complaint against the county of Ventura. We will likely be filing a complaint against the county of Los Angeles as well. So these are just some of the churches. We have another church in Fresno with Pastor Jim Franklin and elsewhere. folks, the battle is raging, and you need to stand up and you need to put pressure on the governor. I'm going to be presenting sometime later this week. I'm going to present all sorts of facts and details from experts with regard to why it is completely erroneous that we are shut down at this point in time, and especially shutting down churches. So watch for that. Also, I have some great news that will follow this video with regard to public schools and Christian schools. God bless you, and thanks for your support.